Allergy season, and there's 1,001 different things you can take. Today on Take Your Medicine podcast, I'm going to tell you what you need for seasonal allergies, what you don't need, and how do you make sure that you're not getting the worst side effects, or at least the least amount. My name's Phil. I'm a pharmacist of 25 years, and I have to tell you through that 25 years, I have more stories about allergies than I can even start with. But I got to tell you about my favorite one. So this is Take Your Medicine podcast, the podcast where I educate you as a pharmacist so you guys can go out there, walk through the door and be just absolutely spot on, the genius you need to be inside the pharmacy door. So my dad has terrible allergies. He used to take me to go throw hay. Now, for some reason, he took me to go throw the hay instead of everybody else. There was nothing better than watching my dad as he started throwing hay, start rubbing his eyes. Now, his eyes would get so big, I swear he couldn't see anything. And this was 2 hours away from home. There I was at 14. And just to keep in mind, at 14, I weighed about 90 pounds, which is approximately what a hay bale weighed. So I'm out there trying to throw hay by myself, and my dad's trying to drive. And of the two, that made the least amount of sense because I could still see and he could still throw. We usually got all done. On the way home, he would rub his eyes. I swear it's a blessing from heaven that we never got in a wreck on the way home. He could not see the road. He would park it in the back, and for the next 3 days, I would try to move that hay. And that is probably part of the reason why I got broad shoulders out of it. So thanks for making me throw hay. So when we talk about allergies, everybody leads to the very first thing is which pill should I take? And absolutely, we're going to talk about pills, but more importantly, here on Take Your Medicine, we always want to look at every variance, every way we can. How do we reduce side effects? What natural options do you have? So let's just jump right in from the beginning. Seasonal allergies. So what happens is you get an allergen. Now, this could be just a little piece of dust. It could be part of a plant. It could be just about anything. You suck that up into your nose, and for whatever reason, your body, your immune system grabs onto that. Now, as soon as it grabs onto it, it says, wait a minute, I don't like this thing. And it produces this thing called an IgE. Now, an IgE is an immunoglobulin E. And that is something that says, okay, from here until the end of time, when I see this, I'm going to go ballistic. And that's exactly what your immune system does. And not only that, but it also tells these little cells, they're called mast cells. I have to say it slow, M-A-S-T cells, mast cells. And now what they are is they're like the watchdogs. They're always ready to bark. So it even warns it, saying, if you see this, I want you to bark. Well, the way that our immune system barks is first releasing histamine. Histamine makes everything swell. It brings a ton of blood flow in a hurry. So as soon as the mast cells or our immune system sees that one little speck of dust that we're allergic to, we blow up. Now, when you blow up in what place with histamine? Histamine also stimulates the next guard dog and the next guard dog and the next guard dog. Next thing you know, your eyes are watering, your nose is dripping, and you feel terrible. And you can get allergies anytime in life. In fact, quite often when your immune system is hyperreactive, so you've got a virus going on now, and then you get around something, all of a sudden you start building allergies. My case, I used to run a lot of triathlons, and I used to eat a lot of Cliff Bars when I was running. I never had a problem. Then all of a sudden I started noticing I was getting sores along my mouth after I was done running. I couldn't figure it out. And then finally one day I realized that I had put myself in such a high level of oxidative stress while I was running, and I was eating these peanuts. My immune system was mad, and I had created a contact dermatitis with peanuts. And I still can't eat Reese's, so I should have never ran the triathlons. It would have been substantially better. But I got that all after the age of 30. I think I was 35 once I started getting it. So don't think because you never had allergies, you don't have allergies. Allergies can happen at any time. In fact, we found a lot of people post-COVID had a lot of new allergies that they never had before. So now treating these allergies is where it gets tricky. Here you stand inside of Walgreens or CVS or your local pharmacy like the one that I own. You say, what do I take? There literally is a whole wall of them. It's a pretty easy way for us to break down. So we're going to break down the pills first all over. I'm going to tell you we're going to take the pills last. I want you to understand them so you know you want to take them last. Here, we like to take a pill because you take it and you think it's going to cure it. You're ready to go. Now, the pills are specifically made to get rid of histamine. They're called antihistamines. They block the release of histamine and where the histamine hooks on. It actually blocks on both sides. There are H1 receptors, histamine 1, H2 receptors, and H3 receptors. This makes it a little complicated because we're going to get through it. But remember, there's 3 types. Let's start with the good old one. We're going to start with Benadryl. Benadryl, the big if. Can you give Benadryl to children? Should you take it if you have any history of Alzheimer's? Is it really as bad as it seems? So with an antihistamine, antihistamines stop histamine, but quite a few of them also have an anticholinergic effect. That means they stop acetylcholine too. Now, acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that does memory, focus, and learning. It also is your sex drive, in case you were wondering. Antihistamines slow that down. Now, it doesn't work well enough that you think you can stop somebody's sex drive with the Benadryl. It won't really work, but it will make them super sleepy. Because when we take an antihistamine, especially with a large amount of anticholinergic activity, we get really sleepy. Now, histamine, just to keep in mind, is the opposite of melatonin. First thing in the morning, we release histamine to wake up. So we use histamine for a lot of stuff, not just allergies. We use it to be alert, awake. It's the thing that kicks off everything going in our brain. It actually has a huge role in the way that we deal with and use cortisol even. So when we start messing with histamine, with antihistamines, we start messing with cortisol, we start messing with melatonin, all of it. But there is nothing better than antihistamines if you want to get rid of the nose that's dripping, the eyes that are watery. You want to take a pill, and we want to block all those effects. They do work. And there's two categories you put in. The sedative ones, which are going to be chlorampheramine, bromopheramine, and diphenhydramine. That's Benadryl, clotrimazole, and then Dimetapp's probably the only one you really know, the purple stuff. Those make you a little bit sleepy. They block more of the cholinergic effect as well as the muscarinic effect, which is a whole nother thing you don't need to know, which means they dry everything up. So watch out if you have like chronic dry mouth, chronic dry nose, if you get yeast infections. You want to stay away from Benadryl, chlorpheramine, bromopheramine, because they dry you out more. But on the same thing, they also make it so your eyes aren't as watery and your nose isn't as watery. They have a higher level of making you sleepy because it is an H1, very specific H1 receptor that they hit. And they are also the ones that are probably most efficient on PMDD. Now we'll go there too, but PMDD, it's really interesting because histamine plays a huge role in the way that we deal with emotions. If you ever see anybody that has a lot of allergies, you'll see that their emotions are kind of a mess when they're on and off their antihistamines. Now, when we take them, they block just that one part, which is just the histamine. They actually don't stop anything other than just the histamine. But there's a whole nother host of things that are going on. You block the histamine, that's fine. But when we have allergy start in, when our immune system says, let's go, there's an interleukin system that causes a whole bunch of effects, including watery eyes, sneezing. It causes inflammation, makes you irritated. There's the mast cell releasing, which has got not only the histamine, but also has a whole ton of other IgG type effects and IgE effects and the histamine effects. So it does fix the one problem. They do dry everything up. They do make you sleepier. And each one of those, the bromopheramine, chlorampheramine, and diphenhydramine, the Benadryl, will only make somewhere between 4 and 8 hours of relief. So here comes step 2. Claritin came in to save the day, and it's a non-sedative. It still works on the histamine, and it lasts all day long, and it works like garbage. Okay, so I shouldn't talk bad about medications because you never know when they're going to call and say, hey, do you want to work with us? But Claritin's like my least favorite at all. When they did a test to see if Claritin works better than placebo, it was like 1.2% better. So it was like this barely movement forward. It's really not been very effective, but it does help in certain cases and in very specific ones. The nice thing about the second category of antihistamines, which is Claritin, loratadine, Zyrtec, cetirizine, levocetirizine, which is Xyzal, which is just second-generation cetirizine, and then Allegra, fexofenadine. Each one of those are now non- or limited sedating antihistamines. They're great. You can take them. You can drive cars. You can function just fine. And they still block histamine. The one that's really special in this category is cetirizine and levocetirizine because not only do they block histamine, but they also stop mast cells. You do have to push the dose higher, and that's the reason why they work better with rashes. Rashes are just another form of histamine release along with the interleukin system that causes those rashes. Those are your pills. Like I said, I don't start there. Where I start instead is I try to get the symptoms where they're at, and that's your nose. In your nose, we have a whole cascade of inflammatory processes that go on. One of the things that you see in there is the interleukin system. Now, the interleukin system is this huge cascade that's an inflammatory cascade that sets off the whole arachidonic acid. And by doing so, you have long-lasting effect, people that struggle all of the time. So they started putting a very, very small amount of steroid. In this case, there's 3 of them. Well, there's really 4, but we're only going to talk about 3. We have Flonase, which is fluticasone. Then you have Nasacort, which is triamcinolone. And then you have budesonide, which is Nasonex. Each of these are topical steroids. When you put them in there one time a day, they actually have the very best data in reducing the runny nose, the stuffy nose, the watery eyes. So if we're just talking about that area, we stay topical. Nice thing about these is they can be used in pregnancy, and they can be used now at the age of 2, and the side effect profile is so much better. The other thing that we really love about this is that you can add on to them. Now, long-term use of any of the nasal steroids can lead to cataracts, but most people, when I explain this to them, if you have to take an oral steroid, like pill form of like prednisone, you take 5 days of prednisone, you could use a nasal steroid for a full year and get less risk for your cataracts. So I always start with the nasal steroids. In fact, I tell people that I would even double up the nasal steroid before I'd even move to the pills. Once you do that, we stop the cascade from the beginning, and it gets us ahead of the game. Second place you want to go with inside that nose is there's 2 other things you can do inside that nose to settle everything down. The next one is the mast cell stabilizers. So there's a prescription called montelukast, which is singular, which stops the IL system, which then helps with mast cells. But cromolyn is a nasal spray that stabilizes mast cells in the nose. So if it's your eyes and nose, cromolyn works really well. The only problem you have with cromolyn is every now and then you get somebody who it messes with their head and gives them really bad dreams. So be really careful with that. And now we also have Astapro, which is a nasal antihistamine, which means you can work to reduce that histamine right there in the nose area and not treat the mouth and the armpits and the feet and everything else too. So if you can stay in the nose, you're going to do so much better when it comes to side effects. The other thing that I find that a lot of people miss out on, which I really like, are the decongestants. So now really there's only one decongestant left. Decongestants, which is pseudoephedrine, it causes the vascularity or the veins inside your nose to get smaller, and also in your sinuses and also inside your eyes. And by doing so, that swelling's gone. If you make the veins smaller, they don't swell and all of it goes away. They keep you awake. You can't use them if you have high blood pressure or with any problems with your prostate, but you take them in the morning and you can breathe. Like, it's so fantastic. Just watch out for those signs. Then we also have the topical decongestants, which is oxymetazoline and phenylephrine. Now, those are the nasal sprays like Afrin and Sinonephrine. I don't know, I remember the phenylephrine's name. Those ones both work, but you can only use them up to 3 days because they're so potent that your body says, wait, you shrunk that, I'm going to make it bigger. So when you quit using it, it rebounds till it's much bigger again. So I would stay away from the nasal decongestants. The oral decongestant, which is pseudoephedrine, I really love the stuff just to help me breathe. And you just have to watch out because it does raise your heart rate, blood pressure, and if you have problems with your prostate. Also, it'll go through breast milk, so your baby will get a little wired, but no more than caffeine. And then last, let's look at eyes. So eyes have their own couple of sets of different medications that you can use in them. They do have their antihistamines, oleopatidine, which is Pataday. They have once a day, twice a day, and then they got the mega dose. Always get the 0.7. That's the Pataday, and it's the highest dose. There's really reason not to go to that. Then we have the decongestants in there, which they have phenylephrine. So Nafcon has a decongestant in it, and also your Visine. They both have something that will constrict all the blood vessels so they look so much better really quickly. And they do make a cromolyn eye drop as well. So each of these are the ways that we stop all of our congestion, where we get ahead of all of our allergies. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get out of the house. And that probably was because my parents always had a chore if I was in the house. I could get outside at any point. And then I realized my kids never go outside. I don't know the last time I saw them go out that I didn't kick them out the front door. And where was I when I thought of that? I was indoors too. In fact, Americans now spend 90% of their time indoors, and indoors can carry up to 100 times more pollutants than outdoor. We need to get out there. But there is a better way, because we're not going to be getting out of the house anytime soon. You got to look at the Air Doctor. So it's an award-winning air purifying system for your home. Now, it removes 99.9% of all pollutants inside your house, including smoke, which obviously is a big deal, gases, molds, viruses. It can clean it all out. In fact, it does a better job than normal HEPA filters by down to 100 times smaller, which is like insane to me. We spend so much time inside now. Newsweek voted it the best air purifier for the home. It's Air Doctor. Now, look, if you go to airdoctor.com right now, that's airdoctorpro.com, airdoctorpro.com, and you put in "take your medicine" as the promo code, you can save $300, which is a huge thing, because then we can have clean air. And you have clean air, well, we feel better about it. So put in "take your medicine," TAKEYOURMEDICINE. Save your $300. Go to airdoctorpro.com. Get yours today. Clean out the air in your house. Or maybe we should just give more chores to our kids. Now, because allergies are so proficient, I'll give you my recommendations. First of all, start with a nasal steroid. I really love them the best. They're the very best overall. Number 2, look at honey. Oh my gosh, honey is so fantastic. Honey helps stabilize mast cells. Honey helps us see pollens before they come if you get local honey. And the nasal sprays, they also work on IL-1, IL-8, and IL-5, I believe. So they work on these interleukins to stop it down. Honey does so many good things to reduce inflammation. I love honey. When it comes to being really stuffed up, iodine. I really like iodine nasal sprays. Now, potassium iodine that's found in like Nasomen from Triquartra and all these other places, they actually help thin out the mucus so it's not thick. It runs really well. Iodine nasal sprays work really good to get rid of a lot of that congestion. Now, bromelain comes from pineapples. It has been linked to reducing oxidative processes. I like the bromelain a lot in combination with the quercetin. Those two both have been head-to-head studies with different medications like cetirizine and levocetirizine and shown really good data. Now, both of those can be found in a very natural form. They have to be used at the right dosages. And if you happen to have COMT, please don't use quercetin because it makes everything worse. But bromelain and quercetin together, really great combination in a more crunchy, I don't know, holistic. I don't really like any of those terms because if it was me, I would use like a nasal steroid like Nasacort, but then I would use bromelain and honey for my oral and I would stay away from the antihistamines. But those are two others. Also, this is the one that I like am just thrilled about. So spirulina. It induces this stuff called superoxide dismutase. Spirulina is an algae that grows on top of the ocean. And when it gets stressed out, it puts out this very specific enzyme. And that enzyme, when we induce it in our bodies, actually shows equivalent relief from allergic rhinitis, which is the runny nose, itchy eyes, as Zyrtec does, which is insane to me. So get the blue, spirulina, increase your superoxide dismutase, and then use your nasal steroids. See where I'm going with this? We could put it all together. So allergies are killer, but you're now ahead of the game because you can walk through the door and you now know, well, those are my antihistamines. This is how it works. Those are my nasal sprays. That's how it works. And if I want to be healthy and not have to use any of those, honey, bromelain, quercetin, and most importantly, your spirulina. My name's Phil. I'm a pharmacist of 25 years. And I'm just here to try to make you healthier. So I hope that you'll listen each week. This is Take Your Medicine podcast. And always, always, always have a great day. And thank you for listening.